All right, I'm here with Coach Mike Burgener. Most of you would recognize that name because he's CrossFit's subject matter expert when it comes to weightlifting. So welcome. Thanks for being on here.
Thanks, Jason. I appreciate being here.
It's very early Pacific time. Well, not very early, but 7 a.m. You said you've been up since 5:30. Are you drinking, what do you call it, cowboy coffee?
There it is right here, brother.
Is it truly the cowboy style like you've talked about?
Well, the true cowboy coffee is when you take a nice pot, a steel pot, and you boil water, and then you throw in a shitload of ground coffee, and you let it boil continuously for about 4 or 5 minutes. Then you take it off the fire, the stove, and you have this wire ring around the pot, and then you take your gloved hand and you start swirling it around your head so the centrifugal force puts the coffee grounds at the bottom. And then you have that with a little bit of heavy cream or, butter and MCT oil. I'll tell you what, you don't have to eat forever.
Do you regularly make a bulletproof coffee, though?
Yeah, I usually will have bulletproof coffee. I go in stages, I'll have the bulletproof coffee for a month in a row. Then I'll say, okay, I'm going to go on just heavy cream and use that with some NCT oil and either one. It's the bulletproof coffee really has a great taste to it for me. I like the flavor of it, and it sits with you pretty much all day long, but the heavy cream's got a distinct taste as well, and I like it too.
Yeah, I love bulletproof coffee. I wake up in the morning and I'm excited to have it. And like you said, if I don't need to eat, if I'm eating before noon or 1, it's simply because I want to eat. I'm full all day.
Yeah, that's the same way with me. And I'll take it and have, the geezers work out Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So I'll have that before my morning workouts. And, all of a sudden I get involved in the workout, and then I start drinking, some kind of pre-workout like Earth-Fed Muscle Revival or something like that. And I'm telling you, I'm fired up. so for 73 years old almost, I can still get fired up with stuff.
You are well recognized as one of the most liked people in all of CrossFit. What is it? Simply because you're older? Is it because you're 73? People just like older people?
I think that might be part of it, although my wife would probably disagree with that statement, because I'm still ornery and cantankerous. But I've always been like that. I'm the guy that was kicked out of kindergarten for fighting, So that personality has pretty much stayed with me all the way through my college and military career and so on and so forth.
Well, I think a big part of it too is you're welcoming and you clearly have a passion for coaching, because when I talk to people, for example, my friends Kayla and Kevin were out to your house doing an interview with you for their podcast. You're welcoming. My friend Eric Malzone said you used to drop into his box and at CrossFit Santa Barbara, and after you would work out, you would just naturally start coaching people. So I think that has a lot to do with it. How do you stay? What's kept you passionate about weightlifting at 73 years old?
Well, I'm on the downside of the bell-shaped curve, but it's fun for me to watch my children, Sage, basically, take over, the coaching at Mike's gym and all this other stuff. But I get to say now, you get to make the hard decisions, and I'm your assistant coach. So none of this pressure is on me. It's on you. But I love working with athletes, number one. And if I had a choice to work with any athlete, it would be the ones that are just coming up the pipeline, because you watch those people and you give them one cue that works and their whole face lights up. And it's like, oh, the aha moment is here. And of course, we all know that there's going to be a lot more aha moments, but it's still just I don't know. I mean, my coach at Notre Dame was was a Catholic priest that gave me so much, and he was so welcoming and loved coaching, and everybody I've been involved with has just been the guys that love coaching, and they want to see people get better with the passion of the sport that they love. And my passion just happens to be weightlifting, and I love seeing people get better at it.
Well, you bring up, the newer athletes, and when I posted that you were going to be on here, I got quite a few messages to ask you, what are your favorite drills for new lifters? And I don't want to misattribute this quote, but you've said something like 90% of missed lifts can be attributed to foot position, right?
That's correct. Yeah. Yeah, I learned that years ago from a guy. Of course, I want to make it clear that everything that I coach, I've learned from somebody else. There's nothing original that I've ever brought to the table, other than the Burgener warm up, and that was strictly by mistake, So, but I would say that for me, the fundamentals of teaching are stance, number one, the grip on the barbell, number two. And number three is going to be the positions. So stance, grip, and positions are the fundamentals of teaching, and they have to be taught in that order. And I choose stance, number one, because the barbell and your body have got to work together. It's like a combined center of gravity that when you lift that barbell, you address the barbell and you start lifting that barbell up off the ground through various positions. The stance is going to be critical for you to be able to do that properly. And we spend a lot of time on working on the best foot position where I can get the most effective drive against the ground to create acceleration and elevation on the barbell. So stance for me is absolutely critical. And I don't know a lot of coaches, especially at the high school level where I got my teeth ground into working with young kids. I don't think anybody worked on their stance, but in my classes at the high school level, I worked 18 weeks with these kids before I ever let them do a full snatch on the platform. So 18 weeks of drills and fundamentals was going into their brain housing groups to make sure that they learned stance, grip, and positions the proper way. And once you have that down and you've taught that to your athletes, then you've established a great communication order. I mean, communication is everything. If I can't get you to do what I want you to do, then it's not your fault, it's my fault. I've got to be able to communicate what I need to that athlete, what I need that athlete to do. And the basics of fundamentals, the stance, grip, and position is the first avenue of getting that accomplished.
You mentioned your coach at Notre Dame, a priest there. Who was your greatest influence as a coach?
Well, I would say there's two people. Number one, Father Lang was the priest, and he really established that passion for me and weightlifting. And what back then in the 60s, no one lifted weights. And so no one really knew the benefits of what strength training would do for an athlete. And Father Lang brought me right in as a 165-pound athlete. And in a short period of time of 6 months or so, I weighed 185 and my 40 time improved. And that said a lot. And that gave me a lot of passion for being able to take the Olympic lifts and enhance, at least some of the athletic performance that is the tools for becoming a greater athlete. So, I mean, I think that is, he's number one. But then the other guy that was really influential of me as an athlete in the Olympic weightlifting arena was Richard Borden. And Borden is a doctor of physical therapy, and he right now is retired, but he lives in Phoenix, Arizona. And he's in his 80s, and I still keep in contact with him because he's a knowledge of Olympic-style weightlifting and movement patterns and the science behind it. And not that I understand any of that stuff, but he can explain it to me in a way that Mike Burgener understands, and he can really dumb it down so I get it. And then I just go back and teach what he's taught me because he's so good at it.
Well, that's one thing you do exceptionally well. And I think I've had some amazing coaches on the podcast, and they all take a complex subject matter and make it simple.
Yeah.
And I've no doubt for you that stems from how many years were you a physical education teacher?
32 years.
So 32
Yeah.
years of teaching little kids, you have to figure out a lot of ways to make it simple and entertaining.
Well, and the amazing thing about that, they taught me how to teach. I mean, that's the beauty of it is I had a 15-year-old one time told me, she says, Coach, you're talking about, stance, grip, and positions, and I get all that kind of stuff. And you're talking about, the double knee bend as being a, ankle, knees, and hips extension. She says, shit, Coach, why don't you just say jump? And she was a physics girl, and she was 15 years old, and I was educated that day.
For sure. You've 32 years in the, educational world. Is that what you always wanted to be? What did you want to be when you were a kid? 73 years ago, what is that? In the 1800s? Where were we at? 1940 something?
1946 is when my mom and dad brought me into this world.
What did you want to be? What did Coach Mike Burgener want to be as a 10-year-old boy?
It was anything but a freaking school teacher. My dad laughed his ass off. My dad always told me, says, you become a school teacher, you'll be good at it. A teacher and a coach, that you always have a job. And I said, Dad, I have to deal with little assholes like me. I'm not going to be a school teacher, and I don't know, when the cards were made, I was going to be a school teacher. I just didn't realize it yet, so.
But did you have the typical answer of like a, baseball player, football player? Was that what you wanted to be in the 50s?
Oh, sure. Yeah, I mean, I was a pretty good football player in high school, and I had a chance to sign a professional baseball contract with the Pittsburgh Pirates way back in the day. And of course, they were going to pay me like $200 to sign or something like that. But either play with them or go to Notre Dame, one of the two. And so I had a choice to make. And but I was a good baseball player as well. But I was good in track. I was just a good all-around athlete. So football was my passion at the time. And I went to Notre Dame and weighing 168, and the next thing you know, I'm weighing 185, and I'm running faster than I've ever run. But in the off season, everybody else was sitting around doing nothing, and my off season was lifting weights and competing in weightlifting contests in the Midwest. So so weightlifting kind of came at a late age for me, because at 10 I wanted to be Stan the Man Musial, which way older than but I mean, Mickey Mantle and Roger Maris, you might know those guys, but those were my passionate guys, Then Ray Fosse, who played on the same high school baseball team that I played on, he ended up signing with the Cleveland Indians for $50,000, which was unheard of, I mean, this guy comes from a coal mining country in Southern Illinois, and he's making $50,000 a year just to play baseball. And then we were like, oh my God. Now it's gone out of the roof, but so I mean, to me, I've always wanted to be an athlete. The last thing I wanted to be was a physical education teacher, but the way things worked out, that's exactly what I was supposed to do.
Well, it's worked out pretty well, but you were, in the physical education world. What was your first interaction with CrossFit? When was that first time? You and whether it was Coach Glassman, or did you stumble across the website? How'd you get involved there?
It's really kind of a, very interesting, because it's totally by accident. I got a phone call from USA Weightlifting, and they had this guy by the name of Greg Glassman, who lived in Santa Cruz, that wanted me to run a special level 1 USA Weightlifting certified level 1 course, which I did all the time. I'd run 5 or 6 of them a year to help pay for my weightlifting team. But he wanted to bring 20 athletes down from Santa Cruz to become certified in weightlifting. And so he and I communicated, and he brought them down. Nicole Carroll was part of it, Tony Budding, Greg Emerson, all the heavy hitters, Eva T, all these heavy hitters were down at my gym, and I put them through that 3-day, or that I think it was 3-day course at the time, a 3-day course through USA Weightlifting. And I always put my spin on it. I ran the curriculum for USA Weightlifting, but I always put my spin on it, like I was teaching another physical education class, basically. And Glassman really liked it. And we had an introduction of Greg Emerson and Greg Everett, not Greg Everett, Josh Everett, and Glassman put him through a noon workout called it wasn't Grace, I think it was called Fran, and those two went at it head to head, and it was amazing to watch. And that was the first time I had ever seen CrossFit, and I'm going, whoa, this guy's onto something. This is really good stuff, and so he and I became Facebook buddies and email buddies, and we send workouts back and forth between Greg and Josh, and we'd compare notes. And then at the time he and Lauren were together, and they started a WOD, and he just put it on the internet, and that's all it was called, the WOD. And it was like the WOD. And, then he told me, says, yeah, this guy out in Golden, Colorado, Boulder, is going to put on a CrossFit workshop, and he wants us to come out there and do it. And you're not going to believe this, Coach. They're going to pay me $8,000 for all my expenses and to get out there. And I'm going, $8,000. Oh my God. It's like no one had ever been paid that much money to coach weightlifting or CrossFit or anything else. CrossFit was just getting started. And he said, we want you to come out and teach this class. I'm going to give you 3 hours. And I'm going, shit, hell yes. And he said, I'll pay your way out there. I can't pay you, but I'll pay your way out there. So I got out there, and I walked into this building, and there were 50 Navy SEALs, Marine Force Recon, Army Rangers, firefighters, police officers. There were 50 of these guys in the Colorado area, and this guy charged them $500, and there were 50 of them. So that's $25,000, right? And Glassman, I'll never forget the look on his face when he walked into that room. It was like, wait a minute. This guy's making 17 grand, and I'm making 8, and I can't even pay my coaches. Right then I knew it. I mean, he didn't say it to me, but I could see it on him. This will never happen again. So we did our gig, and it was so much fun. And, it was really an eye-opening experience, because I'm a PE teacher, and every one of my students can do overhead squats and snatch balances, and they can do all this stuff. But not one of those 50 guys could do an overhead squat with PVC pump. Not one person.
And these were Navy SEALs.
And these guys were SEALs. They were first responders. They were heavy hitters. They were, knuckle draggers, and they were motivated. I kicked their ass with PVC pipe. Literally, they didn't see it coming. And my belief is stretching under tension and keeping people in a position that you want them to be in, and then moving them up and down from there. And the PVC pipe, the comments were, Coach, I can't believe you kicked my ass with a PVC pipe. What's it weigh? A pound or something like that? I mean, it was crazy. So Glassman, we all went home, and the next week he calls me up and he says, hey, we're going to start doing these seminars once a month up in Santa Cruz. I'm going to charge $1,000, and I'm going to have 60 in a class. So we're going to make $60,000 a month doing these seminars, and we want you to be part of it. And I'm going, hell yeah. So I go up there, and it was like, wow. It was the greatest experience ever. And I really had fun. It was just another extenuation of my teaching and coaching, because that's what I was teaching. I was teaching my lesson plans, and everybody wanted to know what this drill was that I was doing, and there were 2 of them. There were what later became known as the Burgener warm-up. I've been doing that drill since 1975. It just didn't have a name. They all wanted to know what the name was. And I said, hell, I don't know. I don't have a name for it. I've been doing it since God was a corporal, it was just one of those things. And my daughter says, well, Daddy, why don't you name it the Burgener warm-up? And that's basically how it started. From me doing a course up in Santa Cruz, and everybody wanted to know what the name of this drill was, and me not knowing. And my daughter says, Daddy, call it the Burgener warm-up. And so we started calling it the Burgener warm-up.
It's funny because every weekend at the level 1, when we coach the snatch, we talk about the Burgener warm up, and one thing I always say is, hey, if I made up a warm up, I'd name it after myself too.
Well, it's not. I've just always done it. I just never knew what the hell to call it, But anyway, so Sage is the one that she gets the credit for it.
And the snatch portion at the level 1 is, I would say, still the most devastating portion of the weekend. We get through the day 1 workout, the day 2 workout, 3 hours of breaking out. By the time they're snatching, their legs are just they're smashed. We have to take it easy on them.
Yeah.
So you go from helping at the level 1s, and back then it was 3 days. Boz was on a couple days ago, and he talked about how hard that 3-day seminar was. It was just a beatdown. When did it go from you show up at those to Coach Glassman saying, we want you to have a 2-day course all to your own CrossFit weightlifting?
It was a year. These things were very successful. They were coming on, and they were sold out. And he could have done one a weekend if he had wanted to. But he was very patient with bringing this stuff together, and he had a game plan, of what to do, I guess. And after a year, he called me in and he said, hey, we're gonna go a different direction, and the direction is going to be where we want you to run a course on your own. Everything is going to be funneled through CrossFit. All the signups are going to be funneled through CrossFit, and then at the end of the course, we're going to pay you through CrossFit. We're going to 1099 you, and you're going to be an independent contractor for us, and that worked for about 2 years, and then I went on and became an S corporation after that.
How many seminars do you think you led?
Oh shit!
In CrossFit weightlifting,
I would tell you that my first year, when we went by ourselves, I did 5, and every one of them sold out, and the sellout was 60. Because I didn't know what the hell else to I wanted to let everybody in, right? But we got 60, and that's because my PE classes were 60, and so I thought I could manage 60. And I'd bring in my kids to help me. Casey and Josh Everett and Stefan Rocher would be my coaches. And so the first year we did 5. Year number 2, I did 10. That was, I think, 2006 or 7. I think 2005 was my first introduction. 2006, I started running separate ones. 2007, I ran, I think, 8. No, 2007, I did 5. 2008, I had a knee replacement, and I ran 10 courses at the same time. And then 2009, I ran 40 all by myself. And that was an ass kicker, so.
And you were still teaching at that time.
I retired from teaching in 2008. So 2008, I thought, okay, I made that first year, I made a significant amount of money just doing 5 courses, and I had to pay taxes on it. I'm a school teacher. I don't know how to do that shit, right? And it's like all of a sudden I'm paying Uncle Sam a shitload of money that I wasn't used to, right? And I didn't know what to do. So, oh my God. So the next year when I got 10 signed up, I thought, okay, I'm going to get my knee replaced, and I'm retiring from teaching. And I was at that 62 year age mark, and I had 32 years of teaching. So I couldn't go up any higher in my pay with my school teaching retirement. So I just said, well, I'll retire and I'll do these CrossFit courses, and we'll see where they are. And the next year I did 10, and I'm going, you got to be kidding me. And of course, my wife thinks I'm a genius because I'm making all this money now. And I'm still a dumbass school teacher because I didn't know what to do with it. I just throw it in the bank and let it draw no interest in a checking account, not even know what the hell was in there. So talk about Mutt and Jeff, man, I was a typical dumbass when it comes to trying to run any kind of business.
Well, people have done worse with more money, right? So at least you're putting it in the bank account.
Yeah.
I remember how big of a deal it was in 2008 when you came to New Jersey. People see now weightlifting seminars every weekend around the world. And you came to New Jersey, and like 5 of my coaches, we were like, we're going, because it was a great opportunity for us. So
Yeah.
one thing I definitely want to talk about, and I don't think we need to even ask the question, but what has the impact of CrossFit been on weightlifting?
Oh my God. I mean, I get goosebumps when I even think about that. I was on the board of directors for USA Weightlifting for 2 terms, I think it was. And right towards the end of my term, the black box came out. That was Coach Glassman's the black box theory. And I was hook, line, and sinker right into the black box. I came back from that course out in Colorado. I came back and started teaching my PE classes CrossFit, and they loved it. And my whole school bought into it. We had CrossFit Tuesdays when we had shortened days. I would bring every PE class in the school out to the football field, and we would do Tabatas. I mean, we were hook, line, and sinkered into it. And at that point, I went to USA Weightlifting and said, "You guys aren't going to believe this. I mean, this guy, Coach Glassman, has come up with a workout program he calls the Black Box." And, it's like 100 workouts, 100 exercises in this box, and he chooses 8 of them or 10 of them, whatever it is. And some people do good and some people at some stuff, and I went on to spout what Glassman always talks about. The triathlete wants to run, bike, and swim, and the dumbasses don't care what they get. They just don't want bike, run, and swim, right? And so,
Exactly.
I'm like, God, guys, this is going to revolutionize fitness. And I'll tell you what, if people are going to come up in their households, they're going to be doing CrossFit. And what's Glassman love? He loves gymnastics and he loves weightlifting. We're going to be able to sell weightlifting to these parents and to the people that join these black boxes and have access to the black box theories and gyms. And they thought I was freaking crazy because Grace and Isabel were nasty old women, and who would ever do 30 snatches and 30 clean and jerks for time? You're nuts. Burgener, you're crazy. You're just not going to do it. And at the time we had, I think, 3,000 members in USA Weightlifting. Our federation was struggling, it just did not look good. And now I think there's like 40,000 members, and we're hitting the market. I mean, the Pan American Championships were just outstanding. We got great lifters that came through the pipeline of CrossFit that are lifting weights and lifting at the world level and doing very, very well. They're medaling. CJ Cummings is a perfect example. I mean, these guys are outstanding, and it all started with CrossFit. So for me, if it wasn't for CrossFit and the openness of Phil Andrews to see the benefit of what the 2 organizations can work together and what they can achieve, if it hadn't been for that, I don't think this would have ever taken place. Because the old guard doesn't want to progress. They don't want to see things go up. They want to keep it always the same. But the new guard, Phil Andrews, who came in from the UK, started running this organization and saw how well we were doing, on the CrossFit level, doing seminars. Well, he says, well, bullshit, we'll start doing seminars again as well. And they just, it came in and more people started, oh, God, there's a weightlifting? I can lift in weightlifting contest? Maybe I can't go to the games, but I can do weightlifting and compete and have fun. So a lot of people went from CrossFit to weightlifting, and obviously there's people that do both, but there's been a lot of changeover from CrossFit to weightlifting because weightlifting is so much fun, and you don't have to be in the fetal position when you're done, so that's the way it got started. And it's really, amazing to me to see that 2 people, Phil Andrews and his openness, and Glassman came together with this stuff and really do a good job. And then obviously Katie and Bill Henniger, I mean, those guys have grown through the pipeline. I mean, they started the same time I did. They had to pass the hat to get a cold beer just like I did, and now look at them, So all 3 of those entities have just done it's all started with CrossFit, but they've really helped weightlifting, reach that pinnacle of where they are. And it's even going to get better, I think.
Oh yeah, it's still growing. I think for me, I stepped into my gym for the first time in 1993, and I don't think I hit a snatch or a clean and jerk until 2006.
Yeah.
So, and like we talk about it at every level one, the complexity is exactly why we need it.
Yeah, exactly.
So with CrossFit's current push towards health, what do you think the impact will be on weightlifting? Do you think it'll still continue to drive people towards weightlifting? Do you think you'll see, more people in their 70s hitting clean and jerks for the first time?
Oh, of course. I think it's a great thing. And I think Glassman's got the right idea. Look, the games are entertaining, they're fun, but they're not what really marks CrossFit. I love going to the games, but you know why I like going to the games? It's because I get to see more people. You get a lot of people from all over the world coming and congregating into one place. But the beauty of that is it identifies CrossFit as being a major community. And to me, the community of CrossFit means everything. So the health aspect of it is a natural. I think it's going to reach more people. I mean, I don't know how many boxes there are now, but there's a ton of them. And, how many CrossFitters are there throughout the world? There's a ton of them. And so the medical industry with diabetes and, over fatness and, the whole point is, through CrossFit, I think it's going to be enhanced. I mean, you're going to see a lot of good health practitioners come out now. I mean, there's doctors that are becoming level 1 coaches in the CrossFit community. And diet and nutrition. And, you guys with your diet and nutrition and EC with hers and all these people, people are starting to finally pay attention to what they eat and how they eat it and, weigh in and measuring or whatever can be part of it. But, people are becoming much more aware of their health. And I think CrossFit's done a major job with that. I think it'll continue to do that. And I think it's only going to get better for the weightlifting community.
Yeah, I think, the more people finding CrossFit, the more people finding weightlifting. Because if you walk into a box, you're gonna snatch, you're gonna clean and jerk.
Absolutely. And you take a look at Matt Frazier. He was a weightlifter before he was a CrossFitter, right? So you're going to have mom and pops that are 70 years old snatching PVC pipe. My geezers here snatch PVC pipe. And it's, if they get a little cantankerous, they may get a piece of cold rolled steel or something and snatch that. And then maybe work up to a 15-pound bar. And all of a sudden they feel athletic again. Because what are they doing? They're jumping and landing, and they're not jumping up to touch a rim in basketball, but they understand jumping. And all of a sudden you're, oh, shit. As long as I don't have any shoulder problems, I can get this over my head and feels pretty good, So they feel athletic again. They're not just in the gym, some global gym using machines. They're doing exercises that are standing up. Their feet are on the ground. They're multiple jointed exercises. They're done in a ballistic manner, ballistic for them. So it's more athletic and it's like mimics everyday life, So
where do you get these geezers? Where do they come from?
Oh, God. They come, most of them are my buddies, but we started out with 2 of us, and the guy moved up into my area and he and I started a workout. And then I was, you meet people and then all of a sudden you start inviting people to your house to work out and they think you're freaking nuts. But, and of course they're intimidated as hell. But the minute they come up here, we do our scaling with geezer style scaling.
What?
Like we might do a Cindy, right? Cindy is 5, 10, and 15, right? But you get to choose the exercises. So like a 5 might be 5 burpees or 5 deadlifts. 10 might be push-ups on a bench because I can't do regular push-ups. And 15 might be air squats, which I can do. So I might also do ring rows that I can do, or I might do kettlebell swings. Or 15 ball slams. 5, 10, 15, as many rounds as you can get in 20 minutes will kick your ass regardless of the exercise. So we do self-scaling. So some athletes can't do burpees. They can do deadlifts or push-ups or at an angle, or my squats for a geezer are sitting down to a bench and taking your feet off the ground 1 inch, then standing back up again. That way I can get them to go low enough. Otherwise, if I have their butt touch something, they don't go low enough. But if I bring their feet off the ground for 1 inch, then they go low enough and they stand up and they can do that. And that doesn't hurt their bodies. They got to do that every single day. They got to sit down and squat, right? That was Glassman's first thing,
That's a really great scaling option that people may not have realized. You're lifting their feet up to basically put their hip below their knee.
Exactly.
That's a great scale. Are these guys old enough that they're in the middle of their workout and they kind of just forget what they're doing?
Oh shit, yeah.
So
no one gives a shit anyway, right? I mean, I got the clock going and I'm doing my workout, but I'm not watching these guys. I don't care. I'm just doing it on my own. But you'll see Terry's the resident jokester, so he'll be doing 2 rounds and all of a sudden he'll go sit down, and he may stay there for 5 minutes just because he's tired and he doesn't want to do it anymore. So no one gives a shit, but we all work, we work hard and we try to encourage each other. And of course, our encouragement with Terry is calling him a fat ass, and he's always going to be fat unless he starts working harder. And, but that's the brotherly love that men do. And we really don't mean it, but we're trying to encourage them. And of course, the brotherly love that my wife gives at her Mamba class, Mothers Against Making Bingo Arms, is like, oh, honey, you look so good. And they know she doesn't. She's like 30 or 40 pounds overweight or more, and she doesn't look good, but the women are going to tell them how good they look, and they're going to go blow sunshine up their ass. And the guys just give each other a hard time. My wife just hates it when I'm out in the garage because everybody just rags on each other, but it's the brotherly love that we have for each other. So.
What's the minimum age to be a part of this geezer class?
Well, you can be a geezer in training if you're 50 to 59. So you're a geezer in training. So a geezer is 60 to 64. A super geezer is 65 to 69. And the super stud geezer is 70 to 74. Then 75 plus is a day-to-day geezer. we just hope that you can make it, So on my wife's side, the Mambas, that's 10 years younger. So they're Mambas in training at 40 to 49, and then so on and so forth.
It's funny. When I was a kid, my grandfather was maybe in the 60s, and I remember barely being able to have a catch with him. And if I didn't throw that ball right to his glove, he didn't catch it, and I'd have to chase after it. So to see someone at 70, these guys at 73, what's the motivation there? Like, how do you guys get fired up these days? Is it you just crank Metallica? Is it just you have to do this to live a good life? What do you guys do to stay motivated? What do you guys do to stay motivated?
I think it's the camaraderie of just getting together every single day. Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, looking forward to that time. And I think a guy told me yesterday the best. He says, I really want to thank you for opening up your home, because the gym is in my house. It's my 2-car garage, but I want to thank you for opening up because it gives us some place to go. And all these guys, my oldest guy is 85, and the youngest is 59 or 60. We don't have any, I don't think I have any geezers in training. They're all geezers or above. And I think that motivation is just coming together as a group and socializing and giving us something to do and staying healthy and, not worrying about how many rounds I got today, but know that I'm improving, and then that camaraderie, I think, is everything that keeps us together,
So, to be training at 73 years old, you have to be doing some smart things. Way earlier when you and I were talking, you mentioned you don't let your athletes move PVC for, I think you said, what'd you say, 6 months or 18 weeks?
18 weeks, yeah.
18 weeks. What's some advice you give CrossFitters? Because CrossFitters, we see Matt Frazier, we see the Tia Claires snatching this ridiculous weight, and they make it look easy. So we think, hey, we just grab a barbell, throw some blues on there, and start snatching. how do you get CrossFitters patient, and what advice would you give them to ultimately get to that point that they're successful in weightlifting?
Yeah, I think it's my early training with Father Lang, and then I was coached by Ara Parseghian at Notre Dame, and my love of football, Vince Lombardi, all those guys had something in common. And that one thing in common was to work fundamentals and work drills and skills. And for me, that's why the Burgener warm-up even came about back in the 60s at Notre Dame, was because of Father Lang's discipline of fundamentals. And I think that, if we stick to our plan of developing the right way, and you work your drills and skills every single day, then there's nobody that can't do this stuff. Everybody can do it. Now you have the Frasers, but what you don't realize is that Fraser, at a very young age, was working drills and skills. I know his coach, Chris Polakowski from Vermont, was his coach, and Polakowski is a physical educator just like I am, and we have the same mindset. It's that mindset of you have to work drills and skills, you have to work fundamentals, you have to do your due diligence, and then you only come up when you've achieved that level of success with a lighter implement, and then you continue to move upward very slowly. And I always put it to the test that if you think about it, once I've got an athlete lifting a bar, just a bar, and they've got proper technique with that bar, then I progressively overload. The next week, I put on 1.5 or 2.5 pounds on each side. And I do the same drills, and I do everything the same way, and I progressively overload. Think about what would happen if I could do that every week, progressively overload. Don't worry about anything else but just doing your drills and skills. Just think in a year's time, the amount of weight that I'd be lifting. And I say, of course, a barbell weighs 45 pounds, and if you do the math, it's 260 pounds. So that's 305 pounds, I mean, would you guys be happy if in a year you could snatch 3? Oh, yeah, I want to snatch 305 pounds. We know that doesn't happen, but it is going to be a lot better than what you're doing now. So do your homework, practice your PVC pipe drills every single day, do CrossFit, get it out there. But if I do the junkyard dog, which is a jumping exercise, and I practice my drills and skills, which is the Burgener warm-up and the skill transfer exercises, and I do my 3-position snatch from the high hang, mid-thigh, and floor, all with PVC pipe every single day, I will get better. And then do my CrossFit workout. That takes me 10 or 15 minutes to do all that stuff, and then I can do my CrossFit workout, and there's going to be 2 or 3 days a week where I'm going to snatch and I'm going to clean and jerk. So I will get better, but you can't think about Matt Fraser and Tia Claire, because those guys went through the same thing at a very young age. Matt Fraser, mom and dad were Olympians in figure skating, and I know the fundamentals that were taught him, and with Chris Polakowski as his coach, he started out just like everybody else at a very, very slow and tedious time period, but he got better.
Well, and that answers people's question. Every weekend at the level 1, inevitably someone will say, this would be a lot easier with weight on the bar.
Bullshit.
And I get it at the class. People, I can't overhead squat with PVC, but I can do it with 45. Yeah, well, that's just masking a whole lot of problems then.
Yeah, big time. Yeah. And it's that's why I take in my classes is, I put them in a PVC pipe overhead squat. And of course, as soon as they hit that bottom position, the bar's way out of position. So I'll take them up from that overhead position, and I will bring them down to a position where they're still in that good functional position. The hips are underneath the bar, they're in the front, everything's done the right way. But they go down 1 inch farther and the whole body collapses, right? So I'll hold them in that position for a period of time. I'll make them stretch in that position and go down 1 millimeter at a time. And it's absolutely brutal. And they just can't believe it, And then all of a sudden, by the end of the day, they've improved by 2 or 3 inches going into that overhead squat. And more times than not, by the end of the weekend, they're now down into the overhead squat. And now we start in with the, going into an overhead squat and then bringing the bar on your shoulders and pressing it overhead for that good shoulder mobility. Oh my God. I can tell you, I make them say, thank you, Coach Burgener. We love you, Coach Burgener. I make them say that because that is, in my opinion, that's the way to get these guys ready to be a functional in the overhead squat and CrossFit movements.
Yes, and we all know if we don't say that, there will be burpees as punishment.
Yay, burpees, right?
I spoke to E.C. Sinkowski, Austin Malleolo on the podcast, and she coached Austin, and he attributes a period of time where she wouldn't let him use more than PVC. The snatch has always been his weakest lift, and that was, the first time he was able to snatch over 225 after months of PVC, and same like you just said, it was brutal, but it's what got him better.
Yeah. Now, EC, I love EC. She took my courses early, and we've communicated throughout the time period. And I'll tell you what, she's the real deal. And she's a great teacher, and she wouldn't let Austin do it wrong. She's going to do it the right way, and so she's a great coach.
All right, last couple of questions. I know you got to run. What is your favorite? There's plenty of quotes attributed to you. Do you have a favorite that people say?
Oh gosh, I think the favorite once an athlete gets better was always been lift hard and heavy or go home to mommy. That's been one of my favorites, and I just pull stuff out of my butt more than anything else, and I think years ago we had a program at Notre Dame that we called. Our weightlifting team was called the Snatch Club at Notre Dame. And so we came out with a shirt, obviously, that had a guy snatching, and it had the Notre Dame Snatch Club on it. But on the back of it, it said, there's nothing feels quite as good as a good snatch, And of course, we all know what we're doing. But, when anybody challenged us on that, we would just say, wait a minute, the snatch is an exercise. It's right there in front of us, But I said, you must have a dirty mind if you're thinking that kind of stuff. So we were just crazy. That's all.
I think every CrossFitter goes through that period of time where just hearing the word snatch is funny. And then you hear it enough and you're like, all right. My favorite quote from you, and I use it almost every weekend at the level ones, is when the arms bend, the power ends.
Absolutely. So, that is absolutely it's probably the most used quote of anything, I believe, because that's it. And then, you got full foot all the time, full foot, full time. I mean, you can't, that whole movement of the foot is being able to drive flat footed. You got to feel that full foot, full foot all the time, is one that I use. And Whiteboard, I think, puts it out there as that as well. And I love that quote in there because, again, we get right back down to 90% of all missed lifts are attributed to the feet, so.
What is one book you would recommend either aspiring coaches or just anybody in life reads?
Say that one more time because you cut off from it.
What is one book you would recommend anyone read?
Well, are you talking about a weightlifting book?
Either way, whether it's to develop as a coach or whether it's just a book you love.
Well, I like Greg Everett's books. I really, his books, I think every one of them is outstanding. Greg was an athlete of mine, and I love his coaching. He can explain in an easy to understand manner, what's going on, with lifts and why he coaches it a certain way. I mean, I know how to get you in the positions I want you to be in. He can get you in those positions and explain why he wants you in those positions in a very scientific manner as well. I think those are very important, very important things. And then anything that, on the other side of the coin, I like motivational books. I like Lou Holtz's books that he's written, and I can't remember the title of the books, but it's basically the do right rules. Lou Holtz only had one rule in his coaching, and it was the do right rule. I mean, if you're out at after curfew, that's not right. So you gotta You got to do that. And then I guess for pleasure, I really like a lot of Lee Child's books that he writes. Their mystery, the Mitch Rapp series, and all those kind of stuff. The Special Forces and podcast, or Mike Ritland, the Team Dogs, and Jocko Willink. All those guys are we're all freaking crazy, right? So I like to be entertained and motivated at the same time.
Well, I appreciate you being on here. If someone's listening and they want to sign up for the CrossFit weightlifting seminar, where can they do that?
They can go to CrossFitWeightlifting.com. I mean, that's the course. Obviously, they can go to CrossFit.com and they can look at all the seminars that are out there, and CrossFit weightlifting is in that. And we run probably 60 courses a year now throughout the world. So basically, they're easy to sign up for, and you really do learn the fundamentals of teaching and coaching. I think that's very important, that our goal is to teach coaches and teachers how to teach in a very safe, efficient, effective manner. So I think they're very good at getting that goal and objective accomplished.
You're not at every seminar anymore, but you have an amazing staff. I know Sage coaches there. I believe Ray Regno coaches at some of them. Who else is on the crew these days?
My son Bo he runs the business basically now. I mean, I'll sit back and help him out if he needs me, but he does a good job. Him and his girlfriend Sophie from the UK, they run the business. And guys, I mean, we got great coaches from all over. Josh Everett, Stefan Roche. I've got people in Europe right now that are a guy from Poland is a special operator from the Polish military. Camille's sister, Rachel, world team member, she's up in our staff in Canada and leads all our courses up there. We've also got a level 2 now, that is even a more advanced curriculum that really helps with an athlete or a coach that wants to go up to a higher level, and we can take him up that level and have him, video and look for certain things to coach and to correct my patterns. So we have great teachers and coaches throughout the world, and you mentioned Ray. Ray is one of our best coaches. He's getting ready to start leading our level 2. We have David Garcia, who's a former world team member, leading our level 2s. So we got a great staff.
Yeah, great crew, and a bunch of those guys are also on the CrossFit seminar crew. So they're Josh Everett's one of the best in the world. He's always entertaining to be around. Right. We really appreciate you being on here. Is there anything I missed? Anything you wanted to add to the listeners?
No, just don't be afraid to reach out to me. I'm here. I'm retired. I have some time. My wife is a yard Nazi, and you know what? I hate working in the yard. So if you will keep me busy with watching videos or answering questions, then, I don't have to work in the yard.
Yeah. And like I said earlier, I think that's why everybody loves you, because you are approachable. And
okay, I think I lost you.
I got you. Can you hear me? Well, not sure if he's still there, but I think that's one thing there we go. Everybody loves about you is you mean it. If you're ever in the area, reach out. You don't have to be a geezer in training to show up.
Absolutely. Come on up to Mike's gym and we'll coach you in the Olympic lifts. I'm not so sure I could coach you in CrossFit, but my daughter can. But I can teach you how to snatch and clean and jerk.
Well, thanks again for being on. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we look forward to chatting with you again.
Thanks a lot, Jason. Have a good one, man.
You too.